And so when I started writing, well, before that, I want to ask, before I talk about the book journey and how that, raise your hand if you know someone or you yourself are suffering with depression, PTSD, addiction to anything, mental health, illness of any kind. Know anybody or two? And those people, that's right. So we have a problem. We know we've had a problem for a while. The good news is, as you saw in this documentary trailer, that we have the stations. We always have the planks. One of the reasons we have this mental health epidemic is we don't use the planks as society in general. A lot of political reasons for that. So when this liberation happened, and on December 22nd, 2017 is when I ate the mushrooms that liberated this really suicidal depression influenza for 10 months since my father passed away with a divorce, left things up. I would not be alive without a doubt if it wasn't for this states. So I ate some mushrooms and took a walk on the beach with my brother, and the depression just vanished his heart. And I was actually kind of confused that the following days I felt good. And so it was confusing because every day was dreaded, night hours at night, and that's just a horrible day. It's just, if we've been in depression, you know what I'm talking about. There's just no light at the end of the tunnel. So I was confused because I was numb. And 3 days went by, and I was kind of waiting for the depression to return. It didn't. Then 3 days later, on Christmas Day, and I didn't even think about any of this, the coincidences in the dates. On Christmas Day, I just lit up and I knew I was healed, and I immediately decided that I had to share this. This could not, be kept a secret. So I immediately decided to start my book. Again, the coincidences of the dates on December 20th, and that was the winter solstice, which is... Check that, yeah. I said cancel the winter solstice reason. So the winter solstice is, of course, the shortest day of the year, symbolic of new beginnings throughout humanity, right? And then the 25th, and then the resurrection of the year. That's how it all happened. It's just so incredible magic. So I started writing the book. This was in 2018, before the psychedelic renaissance Urias had started with. It wasn't until a few months after I started writing my book that Michael Pollan published How to Take Your Mind. And that's the book that really kind of put it on the map. So I felt I really had to prove the science. And I was not spiritual or religious then, because of growing up in a religious household, pushing religion on you, spirituality, all of that just left a bad taste in my mouth. I was hardcore atheist in that. So very science-based. So I dove into the science, dove into the research of what happened in those 4 hours that it just healed. And so, my book is heavily science-based. The reduction of the default mode network, if we're familiar with these terms, default mode network is what creates our ego, our sense of identity. It's pretty advanced in science now, especially since that, MRIs and brain scans can see what happens. And so that network reduces the blood flow activity, which at the same time, when that creates a illusion of separation, it's not just a vacuum. That's why you feel connected to everything else, which is actually reality. We are connected to everything. So it just removes the filter of that. Hence the feeling of connection to everything, connection to the entire universe. Lack of connection is the source of most mental illness, most depression, most addictions. A lot of studies on addiction, like Rat Park, where the rats only choose the cocaine water if they are alone, if they have a social environment. That's what I call Rat Park experiment. Rats alone. Park was it though? They did not choose the cocaine water. So connection is everything, because connection is the fabric of the universe. So things like that, when I dove into, okay, it makes sense logically. I'm going to put that in my book, and I'm going to really convince people because it's science, right? Our brain also becomes more globally connected. So our brain has different compartments, your visual cortex, your auditory system, and all that. It's normally compartmentalized, right? That's their job to do. And with the default mode network offline, the brain connects more globally and different parts of your brain speak to each other, which is what causes us creates synesthesia, which is the mixing of senses, which is what sometimes on a journey you can taste colors, you can see sounds, things like that. These connections last, and new neurological connections are created from a heavy psychedelic experience, and microdosing is just kind of takes longer. But during a heavy psychedelic experience, there's that shuffling of the connections, and then those remain. Now, the connections are, of course, what create our perception. So many times, and in all clinical research, over 80-90% of people who go full in with healing these intractable depression and PTSD and everything, they come out a lot better, healed, because of different perspectives. So if you shake all that up, all the connections, it's kind of like pouring concrete, fresh concrete, and then it settles. So the connections settle, bringing you a new perspective. Many times in problems in our life, all we need is a new perspective. It really is all about perspective. So that's another sort of biological way that these things work. And there's so many biological ways that it works. So I filled the book up with a lot of science and, of course, my story. During the writing of the book, I started my ascension workshops, which is what I do during the 3 o'clock. So it's a combination of a microdose, a little bit of movement, breathwork, meditation, and the synergy between all of that is so powerful, because the breathwork itself unlocks endogenous TM teeth. You can. And so it is almost like having a really powerful psychedelic experience in a short time, half hour, controlled by the breath, so you're not stuck in that state, but it can really get you. So I started doing these workshops in San Diego. Became very popular. Then one day I had this spirit come through me, and I hadn't, still was not spiritual. There was a force that came in and told me I had to go to Oaxaca to build a retreat. And I couldn't get off on me. So I spoke to my team that we the ones doing the workshop. I was like, hey, you guys want to go to do a retreat, mushroom retreat in Oaxaca with Gashmans? So 2 months later, I booked a one-way flight to Oaxaca, didn't know anybody. Just sure I was in Europe, just landed. Met one person after another, and within a week, I had met a medicine woman who inaugurated me as a shaman about a year later, and built our retreat there, and then we started doing more and more retreats, and now we are established Ascension Retreat down there. This is the journey that took me into spirituality. This is where I saw